Plot summary of Blindness by José Saramago. At an intersection with a traffic light, a driver stops even after the light turns green, which irritates the other drivers. The man screams that he suddenly can't see anything because all he can see is a sea of white. After another driver helps the blind man get back to his apartment, the blind man knocks over a vase and cuts himself trying to pick up the pieces. He then passes out on the couch until his wife comes home and helps him clean up. The person who drove the blind man home turned out to be a thief. He stole their car, so the blind man and his wife take a taxi to the eye doctor. The doctor doesn't know what's wrong with the blind man's eyes, and his situation has never been seen before. The doctor says that the only thing to do is wait and see. After the blind man's appointment, both the car thief and the doctor suddenly lose their sight. A young woman who works as a prostitute and wears dark glasses because she has an eye infection goes blind while having sex with a man at a hotel. The car thief and the girl with the dark glasses are taken back to their own homes by two different police officers. In the meantime, the doctor realizes that the blindness is very contagious and tells the doctor's wife about his condition. The doctor then calls the Ministry of Health, which sets up a quarantine and sends an ambulance to get the doctor. His wife insists on going with him, even though she can still see. When she gets into her husband's ambulance, she acts like she just went blind, even though she can still see. The Ministry of Health has set up a quarantine zone in an old psychiatric hospital, which is being watched over by armed soldiers. The doctor and his wife arrive first, followed by the first man who went blind, the man who stole his car, the girl with dark glasses, and a young boy with a squint who saw the eye doctor the day before. To protect the rest of the population from the white sickness, the government gives the internees a long list of harsh rules that they must follow. The worried patients choose the doctor to be their leader, but he refuses because he is afraid that new people will not accept his authority. While this is going on, the car thief and the first blind man start fighting. Then, the little boy needs to go to the bathroom, so everyone lines up behind the doctor's wife, who promises to lead them there even though no one knows she can still see. The car thief starts touching the girl with the glasses, and she kicks him in the leg with her high heels to get his attention. So, he has a nasty, bloody wound that the doctor's wife tries to fix as best she can. The doctor's wife worries when she wakes up that she will have to take care of everyone else. More patients come in, including the wife of the first blind man and other minor characters who have briefly interacted with the main characters, like the taxi driver who drove the first blind man and his wife to the doctor. The car thief's wound is badly infected, and the doctor and his wife beg the soldiers for medicine, but they say no. After lunch, a huge number of new patients come to the hospital. That night, the sick car thief crawls out of the hospital to beg the soldiers for medicine. But he scares the soldier on duty, who shoots him dead. The sergeant then tells the blind people to get the car thief's body and bury it. The blind internees ask the soldiers for a shovel and use it to bury the body of the car thief in a shallow grave. But when the soldiers go into the hospital to give the interns their dinner, they find a group of blind and hungry interns waiting in the hall. Because they were scared, the soldiers killed them all, leaving 9 dead. The doctor is in charge of burying half of the dead in his ward, but the people in the next door ward refuse to bury the other half. In the dirty bathroom of the hospital, the doctor breaks down crying when he realizes that he is becoming an animal. The people who are being held start to lose all sense of time and routine. The soldiers decide to leave the food outside the hospital instead of bringing it in, but while the blind are looking for it, they get lost. A soldier who wants to kill people almost kills a blind man who is scared, but the new sergeant on duty stops him. On this day, hundreds of new people are sent to the hospital and have to fight for beds. Some are forced to sleep in the hallways, and others are afraid to go out into the hospital's courtyard, where there is a pile of dead bodies. Soon after this, the narrator says that the hospital is now full and that the internees finally have enough food. One of the newcomers is another one of the doctor's patients, an old man with a black eye patch. He tells the others how sad the city is. The government hasn't been able to control the epidemic, which has led to a series of disasters that keep getting worse. A lot of people in the city can't see, public services are breaking down, and there are a lot of abandoned cars all over the place. The narrator says that the patients are better off in the hospital, where they pass the time by remembering what they last saw before going blind. Because of how crowded the hospital is, broken plumbing and the fact that people can't see who is defecating where have made it unbelievably dirty. In order to deal with the situation, the doctor's wife thinks about telling everyone that she can see. Before she can, though, a group of armed thugs takes over all the food and makes everyone give up their valuables in exchange for food rations. The group from the doctor's ward reluctantly agrees, but the thugs give them so little food that they start to starve. The wife of the doctor realizes that she is the only one who can stop the thieves, so she sneaks around their ward at night. As the people in the camps become more desperate, the thugs start demanding more money and valuables and then start raping the women in a systematic way. The women in the doctor's ward are afraid as they wait for their turn to be attacked. In a moment of weakness, the doctor and the girl with the dark glasses have sex in front of the doctor's wife, who comforts them instead of telling them to stop. Also, the girl and the old man with the eye patch start going out together. One night, the thugs call over the ward's 7 women and rape them violently for several hours, leaving them beaten and traumatized beyond words. One of them dies right after the attack ends, and the doctor's wife washes her body to purify it. Soon, the wife of the doctor sees that she has to do something. A few nights later, she finds a pair of scissors she had been hiding and follows another group of women into the thugs' ward, where she stabs the leader in the throat, killing him and starting a frantic fight. After getting away with the women, she has a hard time making sense of what she has done. After the leader dies, the thugs lose control, but they keep the food they have stored. When the food stops coming, and the soldiers can't help, some of the people who are starving decide that they were better off with the thugs. The prisoners try to attack the thieves, but they can't because they have put beds in front of the door to their ward. The doctor's wife desperately says that she can see, and then an unnamed woman decides to take matters into her own hands. She sets fire to the beds in the thugs' doorway, and the whole ward burns down with the thugs inside. When the fire spreads to the whole hospital, the patients run out to find that the soldiers are gone and that the whole city is dark and silent. The internees spend the night next to the burning hospital, hoping in vain that the soldiers will come back with food. They are lost and confused. The blind prisoners are free in the morning, but they are lost and hungry. The doctor's wife leads herself, her husband, the girl with the glasses, the man with the eye patch, the first blind man and his wife, and the boy with the squint into town, where blind people are taking shelter in shops. One of them says that everyone in the country is blind now and that they spend their days looking for food. When the doctor's wife goes to find food, she goes to a supermarket that is packed with people but has no food. She finds a storage room in the basement and fills several bags with food. She decides not to tell the blind scavengers when she leaves, but then she gets lost and starts crying. The doctor's wife is saved when a stray dog licks up her tears and leads her home by showing her a great map. This dog of tears joins the family that took her in. Now that everyone has eaten and is dressed, they go to the girl's old apartment, which is close by. Her parents have moved out, but the old blind woman who lives downstairs has stayed and is getting by eating raw chickens and rabbits she finds in the backyard. This woman has the keys to the girl's apartment, and in exchange for some of the group's food, she lets them in. The group spends the night there, but in the afternoon of the next day, they move to the doctor and his wife's apartment, which is just as they left it. Here, the 7 pilgrims make themselves at home. The doctor's wife helps them clean up, and when it rains in the morning, the women bathe and wash everyone's clothes on the balcony. Later that day, the doctor's wife takes the first blind man and his wife to their old apartment, where a blind writer now lives. Even though the writer can't read his own work, he keeps writing so he doesn't lose himself. The doctor, his wife, and the girl with the glasses then go to the doctor's ransacked office. They then go back to the girl's apartment to look for her parents again. They walk by a person telling a crowd about the end of the world, and when they get there, they find the old woman dead outside with the girl's keys in her hand. The old woman is buried by the doctor's wife, and the girl hangs a lock of her hair on her doorknob in case her parents come back. Back at the doctor and his wife's apartment, the girl with the glasses and the old man with the eye patch tell each other they still love each other. In the evening, the doctor and his wife go to the grocery store to buy food. With the dog of tears by their side, they pass another preacher talking to a group of blind people. This time, he is talking about law and government. The doctor's wife is horrified to find a pile of dead bodies in the supermarket's basement storeroom. She realizes that after she left the last time, the blind scavengers ran downstairs, tripped, and got locked in. The doctor's wife feels sick and guilty, so she follows her husband across the street and into a busy church, where she passes out. When the doctor's wife wakes up, she notices that all of the images in the church have their eyes covered with paint or strips of cloth. She and the doctor argue about what this means. When the blind worshippers around them hear this, they get angry and run out of the church. The doctor and his wife take some of the food they leave behind. Back at their apartment, the wife of the doctor reads to the group from a book. As she reads, the first blind person suddenly gets his sight back, and everyone starts to cheer. By the next morning, everyone can see again, and the streets of the city are full of people celebrating. The doctor says, "We are all blind people who can see but don't see."
About the author. José Saramago was born into a poor family and spent most of his childhood in Lisbon, where his father worked as a low-level police officer for dictator Antonio Salazar. Saramago also spent a lot of time with his grandparents in the rural village where he was born. His grandfather, an illiterate pig farmer, was the person who had the most impact on his writing, according to Saramago. Even though Saramago did well in school, he had to switch to a technical education when he was a teenager. He became a car mechanic, even though he loved to read in his free time. He married the engraver Ilda Reese, and they had a daughter in 1947. That was the same year Saramago published The Land of Sin, his first novel. Saramago wrote on and off for the next 10 years, but he didn't publish anything else until almost 20 years later. Instead, he kept switching between different trades and jobs in the publishing industry. In 1974, socialist revolutionaries overthrew Portugal's autocratic government, and communist Saramago was put in charge of a major national newspaper. But Saramago was fired the next year because of how people felt about this revolution. Even though Saramago was very sad, the experience made him decide to focus on writing novels. In the 1980s, his books Baltazar and Blamunda, The Year of the Death of Ricardo Reis, The Stone Raft, and The History of the Siege of Lisbon earned him a lot of praise. In 1991, Saramago's book The Gospel According to Jesus Christ caused a lot of trouble. The Catholic Church officially condemned Saramago, and the Portuguese government took his name out of the running for the European Literary Prize. In protest, Saramago left Portugal and moved to the Canary Islands, where he spent the rest of his life with his second wife, Pilar del Rio. Saramago wrote more than a dozen more books in the last 20 years of his life. In 1995, Saramago published Blindness and won the Cames Prize, which is the most important award for writing in the Portuguese language. Saramago also won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1998. He was the first author who wrote in the Portuguese language to do so. Saramago died in 2010 of leukemia.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.